Hello and welcome back inside the Parc Fermé for podcast number 837. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now!
AKA Negative Camber. You know why I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
Exactly what I need you to do tonight for your kind consideration on this show, anyway. What are we going to talk about?
Get to the show!
This is the
This
show!
is the show. We're going to talk about news from this week. But before doing that, I have to introduce my co-host, which of course means I got to go all the way to the right coast of this nation, nestled in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where she is a survey methodologist. Did I get that right?
You did. You got it.
Good. You know her. You love her. The lovely, the redoubtable.
Grace!
Grace, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Todd. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How's the kitty doing?
Ziggy's here to help, apparently.
Ziggy's always a big help.
Yeah. She's like literally never a help. She's the least helpful.
Oh, I know. Well,
Which is saying something to, a group of people who live in the house who contribute no money, pay no bills, do no chores,
I know.
They just make more chores for us. They don't actually do any themselves.
I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I was saying, the thing I love about our dogs and about dogs in general is the unconditional love you get from a dog.
Yeah.
With cats, it's conditional. It's very conditional. And I have two cats, but I'm thinking the only reason I'm still alive is because I have opposable thumb and I can open the food container. If they had an opposable thumb, I would toast.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, there's definitely some truth to that. Again, I know I've told this story. I now feel like I start every story with, now I know I've told you the story because we've done like 7,000 of these. And so I've told all the stories I own. But yeah, I once saw a sign on like, like an adopt a cat at like, a pet store or whatever. And it was like, I like anybody who gives me food, or, people have said, cats only like you because you give them food. And I'm like, it's the only reason I like you people, humans,
Right.
like there was food involved and now we're friends.
And now
Like,
we're
it's
friends.
not like I'm like seeking out friends. It's all about like, yeah, all right. I like to eat. Yeah, we can be friends.
Yeah, at
So
the end of the day, it's about the food, man.
I really can't fault them for that. But
No, I can't either.
they're nice. They're like little kids. They're like terrible. And then they're like toddlers, right? They're totally terrible. And then they just look at you and you're like, oh, you're so cute. Fine, I'll keep you, right? I won't strangle you to death. Fine.
Yeah.
So.
Oh,
And they're
boy.
also very cute sleeping, which is when little kids are also the cutest.
They are.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So, Grace, big news this past week. Don't know if anybody's paying attention. We were supposed to have a Grand Prix.
I know
What
Paul got a week off.
I know. Here Paul was. Do you know where Paul was this weekend?
Yeah.
He was down at COTA racing the GT4 Harder Racing Aston Martins.
Sure was.
Didn't get the result he wanted, and he was pretty candid about that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of cool, to have Paul as a buddy, because you kind of get the inside scoop,
That's
the
right.
drama. I can't share any of it, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah, that guy,
Like,
he's a real jerk.
So that's what happened. Huh.
Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so better luck for that team
Yeah.
next time. Yeah.
Yes,
So
for
anyway,
sure.
he gets a week off. He doesn't have to
Hustle.
hang around and try to make Imola sound exciting, because it was already exciting enough when the paddock
true.
was starting to be built. That was enough excitement for anyone.
Yeah.
So he will be back for the crown jewel of the Formula One crown, Monaco, or as Paul likes to say, Monaco.
As we've been told year after year,
Yes,
it is the crown jewel.
it is the crown jewel. Yes, it's like the IndyCar. It's the greatest spectacle in racing.
That's right.
Oh, it's a spectacle, all right.
It's a great spectacle, that's for sure.
It is a spectacle. Grace, it's gotta hurt when your team McLaren's doing a lot better at Indy than they are in F1.
Oh,
That's gotta hurt.
again, no, a win anywhere counts.
Oh,
Again.
so like an IndyCar win is as good as an F1. You just described that as an F1 win.
if I'm going to count Kimi Räikkönen's championship as a championship for all of us, then of course I'm going to claim any victory in IndyCar as a win for all of us, right?
Okay.
We're one McLaren family, you know?
Yeah. If a McLaren wins somewhere around the world, it's a win for all of you.
Exactly. Zach Brown is happy. It's
There
a
you
win
go.
for all of us. I think so. I mean,
That makes sense.
again, I'm a Wizards fan. It's the only way we have any championships outside of the 70s. Like, you know,
Yeah.
well, that guy, they won a champion. Like, I don't think the Lakers are going to win, but if the Lakers won, they have one of our players. So it's like, oh, see, a win for Rui is a win for all of us, right? You know, exactly.
Did you happen to see the Celtics game last night?
Terrible. Now I am all
Oh.
in on the Heats. All in. I love Jimmy Butler. I mean, I love Jimmy Butler, and then when he did the ride with Lando Norris, I loved him even more.
Yeah.
And his "You're driving" that whole video. If you've never seen it, look it up, people. It's hilarious. Because a lot of times when they have the celebrities do the ride along, they either just are like real quiet because they're afraid for their lives, or they're
Yeah.
just not very. The whole time he's just like, and what the hell? What are you doing? Oh my God! It's
Yeah.
great because it's Jimmy Butler and that's who he is. So, but yeah, the Celtics they're toast. They're done.
Boy, somebody got to get some flubber for their tennis shoes or something.
Oh, they were
what's
terrible
going
last
on?
night. They
Wow,
were
you talk
terrible.
about flat. Well, they're
Yeah.
like 1 for 17 3-pointers, and after I had to turn it off, it was like,
Well, I only ever make it to the third before it's my bedtime. This is
Yeah,
the problem
right.
I have now with hockey finals. Is like I hate overtime. This is its own rant, because Formula One doesn't really have overtime, so that's fine. But I hate overtime. Like we would go to Wizards games because overtime means it's this much longer past my bedtime. I'm awake, right?
yeah,
And now I'm stressed because it's overtime. So it's like it's not like overtime's gonna end and I'm just gonna be able to go to sleep. No, it's like I'm gonna be up all night. This is terrible.
know.
So
I know.
I don't know. What the Canes game was, Canes Florida was like 4 overtimes. I'm like, yeah, see, I'm out.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
overtime, I'm like, I'm going to bed.
yeah.
I can't do this.
And I guess
I
big
got a life to live.
congratulations in order for Manchester City.
I know.
Winning Premier League over there. It's a shame a team from Kent didn't win, but
No, right. So I don't know. I don't watch soccer, but yeah, I watch a lot. It's all basketball right now because I don't have any stakes in the hockey anymore.
yeah.
I guess the Knights.
Well, the good news is you didn't have to have a lot of stakes in Imola. Imola was canceled due to heavy rain.
They sure
it
did.
Yeah, it presented a real challenge to the Emilia Romagna area and prompted flooding, which made the race basically untenable. So it was canceled. And I would imagine, given the schedule, this is just my guess, given the compressed schedule, I would imagine, I doubt that there will be a makeup later this season, but we'll see. I would.
Give them 2 races next year. It's not like we're gonna have China.
It's a good point.
It's just like my theory when they should just run the season so close to each other that you just run 2 races in Australia. Like you have Australia 2022, Australia 2023. Just run them real close to each other,
Yeah,
right? Just run Imola in the beginning in the spring in China's place, and then 2 weeks
it's
later
like
in its
when
regular
COVID,
space.
we had Austria back to back, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because I always remember there was a video of Alex Albon, who always cracks me up that they always label him as Alexander. Nobody's ever called him that. Alex Albon and Matt Verstappen when they were teammates, and they're like, doing the unboxed video, and there's somebody running around the track, and they're like, "What are you running around the track? It's the same place we were last week. It didn't change. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to do a grid walk or a track walk. We're still here. Here we are. So yeah, just put Imola next year, 2 together. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'd be Imola and then Imola Redux.
Yeah, we don't need to go to Miami. That would be fine.
Yeah, agreed. I did get an email from longtime podcast friend Gary.
Oh, hey, Gary.
About his challenges in getting a refund from
Oh,
a
no.
situation with MotoGP, and he wrote an email and posted it on the website. But and thanks for sharing that, Gary. He went through a really hard time trying to get
I
money
bet.
back. However, the organizers say this shouldn't be a problem. There was an article that I read that said, let's see, where's the quote? Quote is here from the all buyers who have purchased tickets through the sales network and the ticket won, it ticket1.it, which is the website, purchasing platform, have the opportunity to convert the tickets purchased with tickets for the 2024 event, or alternatively, an economic reimbursement.
Was this written by the Brits? Because that's totally like, instead of just saying a refund, right? They have to have the like
It's an
dampers.
economic
They
reimbursement.
have to have
Dampers.
the biggest word possible, right?
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
So,
Given the ongoing emergency in the region, the methods and timing of the refund will be announced with a subsequent communication that will be sent by email in the next few days by ACI Sport, a company of the Automobile Club of Italy.
yeah, like right now, the water's right here, and I'm typing like this, so it'll be
right.
a moment, right? So,
Yeah. We're all underwater here.
yeah.
It's gonna take time. You sure? Is your office even in Imola?
Probably not, but
Probably not. But
it probably will take
anyway,
him some time. And
well, hey, look, here's my advice. If you are out there and you were a ticket holder, man, I would jump on this as quickly as possible while
yeah.
the system is in full motion. And I wouldn't leave it until later. I really wouldn't.
No, yeah, I'd call now.
His email evidenced in the struggles he had. So, yes, I would go after this like I was killing snakes. And I wouldn't
What
leave
did
it
the snakes?
later.
What did they ever do to you?
Oh, me and snakes, we have a long history of hate between us.
All right,
Long
long down through your family, like a.
Oh yeah, it's a generational rivalry between me and the snakes.
This is a safe space, Todd. If you'd like to share with us about your deep-seated hatred of snakes.
It goes way back with the worm, the dragon.
I mean, you know.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So that. Oh, perhaps I will say perhaps a distinction here on the likelihood of getting your money back is that, unlike Spa in 2021, which was a bit of a cock up,
Right.
this was caused by force majeure. So the rumored $20 million the promoters would have had to pay wasn't due. So this allows them to refund the tickets, or one would presume. It's worth keeping in mind, though, that the promoter has to pay a very high price for the race, and this makes it difficult to refund as much of the ticket proceeds go towards paying F1 for the privilege of hosting F1. But in this case, due to force majeure and a hell of a lot of water, hopefully they'll set that 20 million aside and start to pay. This is Jason. There's your $800. Emily, here is your $1,000.
That's right.
And then Elon, here is your 20 grand for Paddock Club. You know, you can
I think they're actually hoping that enough people want tickets for 2024 that they can pay back people.
yeah. You know, I'm a little surprised they didn't sneak in there that fans have three options: convert them to 2024 tickets, convert them to economic aid for the area,
Oh, yeah.
or get an economic what do they call it? Economic economic
Reimbursement.
That's it. Yes.
Because they're just going to pocket that donation.
Oh yeah, right. Well,
The second one goes straight to my pockets.
well, they could have set up like a Emilia Romagna GoFundMe thing where the promoters take the ticket, and put the money in there. But now that would go to the circuit.
Right. I guess. I don't know.
Who knows? So anyway, all this to make a long story out of a not so long story. The race was canceled. I
Yeah.
am going to talk more about it though. But if you were a ticket holder, by all means, jump on top of that ticket refund and don't leave it until June or July. I would get on this.
No, right. Especially when people are still dealing with the force majeure, right?
Yeah.
Again, which I think is funny because that's a phrase that was never really in my vocabulary until COVID. Because if you have to organize anything, everything was canceled due to force majeure. So it was just like a lot of decisions being made. Because if we go through it and COVID, I don't know, gets better, whatever that means.
Yeah.
We're stuck paying for those hotel rooms. So you had to make some decisions.
Boy, didn't you?
Well, so force majeure, he's your friend.
Can be, unless it's your house it happens to.
I guess, but that's not. That's only if you're the person getting the refund that is your friend. You're right.
Yeah,
Force
right.
majeure is not your friend if it's destroyed your house. That
Yeah,
is
that's
correct.
not fun. And I live in Tornado Alley, Grace, so
Mm.
that's not a fun thing. So let's
Oh,
talk about this Emily thing. This was
yeah.
interesting. I mean, it seems like I get it, folks. It seems like I'm always referencing an article by Jonathan Noble,
Hey, smoke up, Johnny!
and I get it. But this was a very instructive piece that he wrote over at Motorsport and Autosport. Um, And perhaps me always quoting, have you thought of it this way? Perhaps me always quoting Jonathan Noble stories, perhaps it says more about him and his craft and his work than it does about me and my lack of diverse F1 reading. And once again, he's penned a most interesting piece.
But there's only so many sources.
Well,
I
there's
mean,
a lot of
for,
people posting a lot of stuff, but yes, I have.
that's not the same as journalism.
Yeah,
I'm saying
yeah,
from a Formula One journalism perspective, not
exactly.
schmo like me putting some stuff on Twitter. I mean, journalism. There just isn't that many outlets that we have access to.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure if I lived in Italy or England, maybe there'd be more. I mean,
yeah.
I guess
Well,
we
you'd
read
be
what
over there
stuff it's
quoting Build. I know.
Yeah, we're at high quality stuff. But I mean, you have motorsport, you have the race, which is basically used to be Autosport. Everybody from Autosport went and formed race. Autosport still has some people, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, Autosport still
What
has
other,
people. Sky Sports.
yeah,
Um,
so I don't know.
some of the British newspapers. BBC.
I don't know. Those
Um,
British newspapers, though,
well, you gotta be
a little
careful.
sketchy, a little
Yeah, some of those
sketchy.
get a little sketch.
I mean, because
Yeah,
that's the thing, too. I mean, I think that's always the case of, I know, like, I know if I read it on Motorsport. Now, of course, right, we've been doing this for like 9,000 podcasts. So I know who Jonathan Noble is. But, like, I know that if I read it on the race or if I read it on Motorsport, that's legit. Or if I see something on Twitter, I'm like, I don't know. Those are the first two places I go. And then Autosport, because all the other stuff, who knows, right? What it is. Or it's just somebody sourcing it like AP, right? Like, well, that's really helpful. So I don't know. I don't think you
yeah.
have a lot of sources to work with there.
No, and it used to be more, but Maurice Hamilton and
Yeah.
Nigel Roebuck and all those guys. The thing is, so I'm kind of. I don't, and I don't mean this in a heavy-handed way at all. I don't mean that. Oh, I'm very discerning, and I'm. No, it's not that. It's just that I kind of feel like I owe it to listeners to really kind of, if I'm going to talk about Formula One news, it needs to be pretty vetted news from people that have been doing this craft for a long time in the paddock,
Yeah,
people
sure.
that I've met in the paddock when I was in the paddock, and that kind of thing. I have people send me links to like some website
Right.
called Lando's Foot, and then there's some quote, Lewis Hamilton caught in something. He's like,
But that's what I'm saying. I think it's the same with regular news, right? Like if I read something and I'm like, I don't know, as a critical thinker that quite passes
yeah,
mustard, I know where I go to look for it, right?
yeah,
And so
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I guess in your defense, there's not that much that we get here
yeah.
as
There's
English
not. You're
speakers.
right. And speaking of, I mean, like the race. I was really excited for them when they first launched, and I sent them an email and I said, "Hey guys,
Mhm.
if you ever want me to, talk about your website or
Yeah.
anything, always happy to help you guys. It looks like you had a great,
Mhm.
concept here, and so I was like, you're all professional journalists. That's
Yeah.
great, but we'd as a podcast, we'd always be happy to help out."
Oh.
Nothing. So, and that's okay. I wasn't offended. They're busy setting up a new website. I get it. But I will say lately, though, certainly Mark Hughes, yes. Ed Straw
Yeah.
writes some good.
Mhm.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like I get Mitchell mom sometimes. It gets a little virtuous, and I almost feel like we're all like pulling up a chair of the Temple mom and Mitchell mom and something. It's sort of preachy, to me
Mm.
about what I mean. It's like, I don't know, young man. But and it just comes across that way. I don't think he probably means it that way at all, and I'm sure he's an
I'm
awesome
sure
dude.
not.
But
Oh,
it's different when you read something there penned by Gary Anderson, Mark Hughes,
yeah.
even Ed Straw. It's sort of different. There's a magnanimous approach to it. Certainly, there's some opinion, but with Scott, I just you got to look at the words they choose, folks. You got to read between the lines. But you're right. So you got Motorsport, Autosport, Sky, BBC, some of the British newspapers, and to your point, though, as far and I'm sitting here parsing, you know, websites and F1 journalists here, and trust me, there's a ton of them out there, and there's a lot of fantastic, I would say, secondary and tertiary people who generate content, namely like Formula One photographers and those people that do a great job, and team press, team marketing.
Sure.
They do some great content, and um, the some of the sponsors really get behind it. Some of the marketing and Formula One marketing, and really F1.com has really turned a corner and produces some really good content. Whereas you remember when Bernie was in charge, I mean, we
Yeah,
were lucky
they
to
did
have a
nothing.
website, right? They did nothing.
Right.
So a huge 180 for F1.com, and
That's true.
congrats on that.
That's a good point.
But as far as America, American
Again,
cover of Formula, we're all talking about Drive Survive. It's huge in America. The American press,
look,
nothing.
I'm just happy, as I've stated numerous times, when something is on the ticker on the bottom of ESPN, I'm not just like hold my breath because it's something I don't want to know about. Either
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
died or there's some sort of scandal. It was never ever any good if you saw, because ESPN, like, they line up all the sports and then they give you the headline. So you would just wait for it to be Formula One's turn and be like, what did they, oh no, what happened now? So at least now it's just like, oh, Max Verstappen is going to be racing this weekend in Monaco. Oh, that's so lovely, ESPN. Thank you so much for telling. I mean, you're still not really going to cover anything but exactly the race, whatever the 2 hours
Right.
is that you paid for before we get cut off by Mother's Polish. But at least you're there now, and you streamed Ted's Notebook. Well, I can't complain. So I don't have to try to like find that illegally on YouTube and hope somebody doesn't pull it down. But it's slim pickings over here in
It
comparison.
is.
But I think the other thing, we were talking last week about how, like, I hate it when when races are on in my time zone because it's not like football is here. So I just imagine that there's some part of England or Italy or something where Formula One is like that.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
they're like, oh, it's 4 o'clock. This is great. Let's go down to the pub and let's go drink or whatever. Whereas I'm like, it's 4 o'clock. None of my friends watch this. I gotta go, I mean, at least Flip watches, so at least it's just the two of us and we can watch it together. But certainly when I was single, it was like people were like, it's 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon and you're not gonna hang out with us? No, I guess I'll tape it.
Yeah, right.
So
Right.
I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
it's
true.
a different world over here.
Yeah, it is. It's a different focus.
Yeah.
So let's talk about anyway. This article was interesting, and I just want to share a couple of thoughts that I'm basically pulling out of Jonathan's
Mhm.
story. See, he was talking about the impact of not having Imola. Now, this is just kind of a good reminder. He says he was talking about what impact does not having the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix have on Formula One. You recall that teams such as Ferrari and Mercedes were planning on bringing new upgrades to Imola.
They
You know,
were.
yeah, Ferrari being an obvious reason because it's a home race for them.
Yeah.
But now it seems, no, they're pumping the brakes on that whole thing because
Yeah.
bringing those upgrades for what would now be Monaco is kind of pointless. That's a whole different track. That's a one-off.
And I've heard it's supposed to rain, so
Oh, well, there you go. Even yeah, and so it's a street circuit, very unique. That wouldn't really be a good place to measure the impact of said upgrades that you wanted to bring at Imola, where you could test the efficacy of those upgrades. So now they're going to bring those in Spain next month. Now Mercedes, I think, were also thinking about putting the brakes, but I think I read later that they were going to go ahead and bring the upgrades from Monaco instead
I
of delaying them. But
I mean, they're in such sad shape, right? So
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I
right.
I wonder too if people just bring the crates, right? Like just send the crates to Monaco and we'll decide on Friday.
Yeah. Maybe I
Or
would. I
Thursday.
would think some of those are pretty planned out programs, but
I mean, you're right, but I mean, the thing is that right. So everything got shipped from Imola. I don't know where it's going to go. Right? You could send it the crab track, right? I mean, and that's the
mhm,
traditional place where you see the upgrades anyway, is in Spain,
right.
and skip Monaco altogether. But if you're in dire straits, like somebody like Mercedes, right? And these aren't just like, oh, some little squiggly bits we were going to put on the back wing that, are going to get knocked off and nobody will notice any difference. Like they're bringing some serious upgrades. I don't know. I think you might just want to get some track time. I think the downside is if it breaks, you're done. You
Yeah,
only
that's
have
a problem.
one.
That's a problem, and I think that would be more so because he mentions Ferrari and Mercedes.
Yeah.
I'll roll the dice here and say that those aren't the only two teams
Oh,
that
no, sure.
had some upgrades.
AlphaTauri's for sure bringing
I'm
some. Yeah.
sure there were other teams bringing kit. However,
Hmm.
if you were a smaller team bringing kit, these big upgrades that you were hoping to bring at Monaco with a
Yeah.
very high possibility of damaging those, you probably would give that a second look, I would imagine.
Right. Because again, you're not just making a new floor
Yeah,
when Nick
right.
DeVries runs into something, which seems
Right.
inevitable.
As he's wont to do.
Yeah, it's like a
Um,
magnet,
yeah,
pulls them right in.
yeah,
So I
right.
think that I would wait. I would hold off on bringing those if I was AlphaTauri,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
which
And
you have a
I
little
think
space.
exactly. And you also recall that Imola was going to test out the new qualifying scheme of reducing the amount.
So they're just
Yeah.
not going to do it. Just don't do it. See, this is the
See, that's my
gods telling
answer.
you it's a terrible idea.
You know
What
what it
more
is?
sign do you need?
Formula One, this new qualifying, this is force majeure.
All right. Do you need a
It's a
bigger
no
sign?
fault thing. Just don't do it.
You're right. That is genius. I think just
Yeah.
like we'll never talk about it again.
Yep. It
You don't
was
bring it up, we won't bring it up.
force
It's fine.
majeure, and we couldn't
Force
do it,
majeure,
so
we're not
we
doing it.
won't.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I think it's a sign.
Don't
Well,
do it.
for those of you that weren't aware, they were going to reduce the amount of tire sets available per driver and also mandate the usage of the hard, medium, and soft. So hard be used in Q1, medium in Q2, and soft in Q3. Now, as of now, Hungary is the only remaining location to try out this new qualifying scheme. But the F1 teams and Pirelli could choose to get together, have a powwow about it, and have a meaningful, intelligent discussion to say, "Hey, what do you think? Should we do it? Should we pick another race? How do you see this?" And like all of those kind of critical
I just
meetings, come up with a
scrap
solution.
the idea. Yeah. Because when I think Formula One, I think critical thinking and decision making.
Yes. I think pragmatism run amok, but
Always.
always. So yeah, that's what's going on. So that has been either reduced to one of these schemes during the season, or it leaves Formula One grasping for another place. I'll probably pick on Brazil.
I'm just saying. Right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying though, if something happens at Hungary and they have to cancel that race, that is definitely a sign. People.
Watch Hungary get rained out, force majeure.
Right, like,
It's like
do you need the Potomac to run red? Like, get the hint. The locust, right?
Yeah.
Like,
the
how many?
locust, the plague. Yeah.
Right. How many signs? Boils. How many signs do you need?
Yeah.
Get it. Don't do it. Bad idea.
Don't do it. Very bad. Very bad. You've angered God.
That's right.
You and your golden calf.
Let our teams go. I don't know.
Yeah.
We could keep this going.
Right, we could. Let's see. It's also now. I kind of think this is in the plus category. It's one less race on the engine and gearbox.
That's true. Ferrari's pretty happy.
Yeah, Ferrari's like, wait a minute, we're
Woohoo.
not. Are you serious?
This
We're
is
not
like
gonna
how
do it. Woo! Yeah.
this is like how I gained 2 years on my car during the pandemic. Because where did I drive? Nowhere. Around the block to make sure the engine kept working. Right? Like,
It's not 15,000 miles a year for you, Grace. That was like 2,800.
yeah. I mean, that was great. And now I don't commute to work, so
Yeah.
I have this car forever.
So anyway, so that I think is a good thing because as you
Yes.
guys know, you have 4 for the whole season. So that's good. And finally, since
Isn't
this
Ferrari already like the third engine already?
yeah, maybe Maybe.
Just saying.
Finally, since this was force majeure, the promoters won't be required to pay the rumored $20 million sanction fee, as I mentioned earlier. And that means F1 will be $20 million less in profit. And that
See you
will
later.
have an impact on the team's payout slightly.
See you later, Michael Andretti.
Yeah.
If we would have had Imola, we would have had space for you, but no Imola. Now we can't. We can't afford it.
That's exactly right.
That's it.
Yeah. So anyway, just some interesting nuggets to think about when a race doesn't happen. I thought, well, it does have a knock-on effect.
Well, and I mean, as I'm sure many people were, you're kind of like watching the Twitter or whatever, and you're following the news. But when Formula One just was like, that's it, we're not going. I'm like, yo, it's bad. I mean, like what it takes for some, and for many reasons, right? For them to just be like, we're not going, especially after everybody's already there, and then to send everybody home. So it was bad.
Yeah. And look, part of the the F2 paddock or whatever was flooded, and you got to think about safety vehicles and where they're staged and that kind of thing. And I think at the time I read a couple of people that died in the flood. So yeah, it's not good.
Not good.
Not good. All right. Let's talk about being selfish. Grace, you as a Formula One fan, you're going to have to be less selfish.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You feel convicted yet?
That I'm selfish?
Yeah.
I'm not selfish.
All right. Let's talk about it, shall we?
Let's. I can't wait to see what we got here.
Yeah, this is a good one. All right, sure. F1 is more popular than ever, but there have been a few, can I call them sour notes, Grace, from drivers and teams and fans about all of the changes made to increase the excitement and entertainment value of the sport?
Before you even get into this story, when you do something stupid and I get mad at you, I'm not flying off the handle. You're being stupid.
Are you not being jealous by getting upset or selfish?
Right. I just think without knowing where this story is going to go, I'm going to put it out there that when you're dumb and I'm mad at you for being dumb, Formula One, that's not on me. I'm not the one with the problem. If you weren't being dumb, I wouldn't have to be mad. Problem solved. But this is one of never their fault.
This is one of those strange situations, Grace, where take it out of Formula One. It's like a company makes a product and it doesn't sell worth a darn, and they blame the customers.
Or, this is like when, my credit card information gets stolen because I swiped my card at Target. That's not my fault. That's Target's fault. Why am I the one that has to pay for it? Why am I the one that has to call my credit card company? Why am I the one that's worried about my PII being stolen? Why is that my fault? It's never Target's fault. I mean, right? Like, I'm not the one that did something dumb. You did. So I'm mad at you, but all the responsibility is on me. That's not how this is supposed to work.
No 800 number to call. You gotta, it's crazy.
Right. So I think this is just whatever the story is going to be. I'm sure it's going to be.
It's good.
Not on us that they did something dumb.
Yeah.
And how dare we be mad?
The sour note you may have heard was really kind of heightened during the Miami Grand Prix weekend with more sprint races this year, as well as all the pomp and hype around that. And that left kind of a sour taste in some people's, minds. All right. Not everyone.
People that watch the race. Yes.
Yes. Me.
Did you watch that?
I was like, oh, you kidding me? Come on.
Right. I don't know. This is what you produced. Great.
All right. F1 boss Stefano Domenicali.
Gwen Stefano.
Who himself championed the sprint races. Thinks it's wrong for people to criticize aspects of F1 that have helped increase the popularity of Formula One and for everyone involved. All right.
Grow some skin?
Well, it's a little thin-skinned over there.
That's your job.
I know.
You're the punching bag. That's literally your job.
At best, out of this, we're going to come out with Daytona. At best, I think. There's no victory here. No. Speaking to the Daily Mail, that paragon of truth and virtue.
Yes.
Domenicali said this, quote, "I don't want a society in which people cannot say what they want, but drivers sometimes need to remember that they are part of a broader picture. We don't need to be selfish. They are part of this sport and this business, and it grows because we are thinking bigger. Sometimes being out of our comfort zone is not easy, but we cannot be lazy or complacent. Just as we can review some of the specifics of the sprint weekend format at the end of the season once we have tried it out on the intended 6 occasions. We won't have sprints every weekend either, but we have a new audience. Ooh. And need to provide value for money every session. Ooh, not let everyone drive around in circles for the sole benefit of engineers and drivers. Are you serious? Which is like, wow.
First of all, there are no support races at Miami. So maybe that's your first problem, Gwen. Right? Maybe because when you go to most races, you're there all day, right? Because you're watching the vintage cars, you're watching the Porsche
Cup.
Yeah, right. There's racing all day from 7 in the morning until like 4 o'clock when the Formula One whatever's happening. And then you're not bored because you're at the track all day watching racing, right? Like there are no support races in Miami. I think that's a problem. So then of course you have to have a sprint race because what else are people going to do on Saturday? You have nothing else for them to watch.
Have a foot race.
I don't know. So anyway, and then on top of the fact, what I always find is interesting, like I don't know if he's specifically talking about the driver's intro thing with LL Cool J that nobody liked, that none of the drivers liked.
Yep.
Which seems to me this is kind of what he's hinting at. Somebody asked them, when you can find a quote from every single driver about an event, it is because some news person in the bullpen asked each of them the same question. What do you think about the new driver intros? So then you can't get mad at them because they all answered a question they were asked. Like, so, I mean, I guess you can get mad at them. You can get mad at people for anything, but somebody asked them. They weren't just like, I don't think, like Lance Stroll was just walking around going, this is not about the driver intros, but don't they have a fair point that it's like, if you allot half an hour for like riding on a flatbed around the truck or whatever, and then suddenly you've added time to that, and that takes away from their prep time. Mm-hmm. They're going to be mad about that. They have every right to be mad about that.
Yeah. And you're right. It's not like they asked Lance after the race, hey, Lance, it was a good pass on lap 23. Could you walk us through how you did that? No. I'm not talking about that. I want to talk about the driver interview.
Right.
They all specifically were asked, did you like it or not?
Right. So then don't get mad, Gwen Stefano, that they were all pissy about it. They didn't enjoy it. None of them did. Any of the only person who looked like they enjoyed it was Lewis Hamilton. Nobody else enjoyed that.
And Will.i.am.
Yeah, well, not a Formula One driver, but Will.i.am did enjoy it. But you know what I mean? Like, I just think that people being critical of you have some skin. I just think you are the one that looks dumb, Stefano.
Well, it's interesting in the quote. There's a couple things that he says. But we have a new audience and need to provide value for money every session, meaning every race, not let everyone drive around in circles for the sole benefit of engineers and drivers. And that's pretty telling there.
Yeah.
I would say teetering on being very concerning in my mind. Agreed with the engineers and drivers. And I understand what he's saying. I think here's the crux, folks. The crux of the argument is that the swinging pendulum concept of Formula One, that if you're not familiar with when we talk about the pendulum swinging one way or the other, this is kind of a dog-eared analogy that's been used for years, but it does hold true. When the pendulum swings too far this way, it becomes a nerd fest of engineers, and you get things like DRS, high deck tires, hybrid engines, more, quote, innovation, but at a cost that is hard to stomach. But conversely, when the pendulum swings too far the other way, you get a clown show of entertainment, shiny objects, constructs, introduced to, quote, spice up the show, as they like to say in the paddock. Concept like, oh, we ought to do medals, we ought to do sprint races, we ought to do reverse
Right.
grids. Hey, we're going to have pomp and circumstance. Every race is like a Super Bowl. You get that kind of stuff when the pendulum
Yeah.
goes too far the other way. I've said it for years. You have to right size the expectation of what Formula One is. If you want NASCAR, go watch NASCAR. It's a fun series with lots of constructs to promote close racing and prolific passing. It's its thing. Nothing wrong with that. If that's your thing, then that is the series you should watch, because that's what they do. But F1 must stop the pendulum in the center. And this means making some goofy marketing activations, and then other marketing efforts like DTS and on-event entertainment, and maybe even better broadcast chyrons and features and graphics, that you're going to have to compromise on some of what we would consider that sort of goofy, over-the-top entertainment side. But conversely, it needs also, in the center, you're going to compromise on the other side. It needs to stop searching for constructs such as sprint races, DRS, high deck tires, over-the-top hype that the series can't possibly live up to because it's disingenuous. But it also has to pump the brakes on the tech to be more achievable for all the teams with regulations that are created to promote competitive racing. And I was just spitballing here. I'm just thinking out loud, but durable tires with soft, medium, and hard compounds that perform right out of the box. Let the teams decide which one works best for the car and let them run those the weekend, right?
Yeah.
Ditch the hybrids, DRS, high deck tires with tricky and narrow operating windows. Lose the weight in these cars. They're so heavy now. I know it sounds like I'm being a Luddite, but make a 1,700-pound car with a couple thousand pounds of aero max on good tires, and that works, with the tires that work with the chassis, and regulations that prevent sort of, that narrow operating window, and regulations that really create that sort of, that outflow from behind the car. It's really narrow, targeted aero wake that's kind of designed to disturb the air, make dirty air, and make it hard for following cars to, that's what Ross Brawn was trying to tackle, remember?
Right.
To get rid of all the dirty air coming off the back of the car. And like I said, I'm just thinking out loud, but in the end, in order to stop the pendulum in the center, both entertainment value and engineering and innovation value will have to compromise at some level to be in the center there. And I think that's important at this point. Do you feel like back in 2014, for 8 years, I felt like the sport was progressively getting more the pendulum going to the engineering side, where even Ted Kravitz said, "Oh, it's tire talk. It's a tire Grand Prix. That's all we're talking about is the tires." And then the hybrids and the KERS and the MGUHs and all of this stuff, and it just got to be nerded out technology, which a lot of the luminaries of the sport were saying nobody sees any of this crap. Nobody cares, and it got so expensive to do. And you and I talked about it at the time. But now, given Miami and Las Vegas and all the stuff and DTS, and oh my gosh, I just feel like we're trying to swing hard the other way. Do you get that feeling?
So here's how I feel about it. I don't know how you feel about gin, but I'm a gin drinker. And what I hate is, so there was a big trend of flavoring vodka. That's fine. Vodka is like the tofu of alcohol. It has no flavor. Put whatever flavor you want. Cotton candy, perfect. Cherry, perfect. Vodka has no flavor. Gin has a flavor, but I don't like its flavor. It tastes like treats. Get out of it. Don't drink it then. Right? Nobody's asking you. Nobody is forcing you to drink gin. You don't like to taste an evergreen tree. You don't want to feel like you're sucking on some pine needles. Then don't drink gin. You have options. You have lots of options. Don't flavor my gin. Flavor the vodka. Flavor brandy. I don't care. I don't drink brandy. Whatever you want to do. Stay out of my gin. That's how I feel about Formula One. Formula One is not a spec series. I don't know when somebody's going to figure that out at and Stefano Domenicali is going to figure it out. As long as the series isn't spec, it's going to be complicated. It's going to be more cars than drivers. It's the technology is going to matter. I find that's the lamest thing ever. I'm a statistician. If I can't explain to you what this data means or what this table means or why this is important for you or why you should care, you know where the failing is? Me, not you as a person who doesn't understand statistics. Nobody understands statistics. It is my job to communicate that with you in a way that is important and meaningful and valuable, and you can make decisions with it. Formula One's the same way. If people are like, oh, it's too nerdy, well, then figure out a way to make it interesting. I don't know. Steve Matchett seems to have figured that out. It doesn't seem like this is magic. I mean, Steve's a great guy. I'm not trying to throw some shade, but he's also not like, I don't know, a Fortune 500, whatever, right? He's a guy. He's a mechanic. He knows what he's talking about and he's able to communicate it with it. So find some more people like Steve to explain stuff with me. I mean, Formula One's done a good job of doing that. We have now much more technology than we used to have. You know, I mean, Sam Collins can stand there with a little, stick and like draw pictures and arrows around things. 20 years ago, you had a still drawing and you had to compare two drawings because that was the only way you could ever find out anything that was changing. I agree that you can get too technology heavy, but what I am always concerned about is it tastes like evergreen trees. Formula One is always going to taste like evergreen trees. If you don't want that, go watch NASCAR, watch IndyCar, watch a spec series, watch something goes in circles, watch drag racing. I don't care. But at the core, Formula One is technology. It's the pinnacle of motorsports. What do people think that means? Right. And I just find and I understand the position that Stefano Domenicali's in now, but there is some part of me that wants him like that Charles Barkley commercial where it's like young Stefano and old Stefano. And I want them to have a conversation with each other because I'm pretty sure they don't agree with each other, but it's because they're speaking to different masters now, right?
Yeah, right.
I understand that. I am a human, but I just think when it becomes too much like entertainment, especially in Formula One, you're killing it. There's a place for it. I always use the beer analogy. There's a place for Corona. There's a place for Guinness, but don't be trying to turn my Guinness into your Corona. That just makes me mad. Get out of my gin, right? So I just feel that anytime you do any of this magic to like tweak things around, and I do blame 2021. I think so many new fans came in and 2021 ended up in such a like, I don't know what I do have words for it, but I'm just going to say it ended the way it ended. And now there's like some expectation that every year is going to be like that. I've been watching this sport for a long time. You've been watching this sport for a long time. It's not always the last race of 2021. No sport is like that. So, but you have to be in for the long haul. And I just think, didn't we watch NASCAR do this? This is what kills me. Didn't we watch 20 years ago NASCAR go through this exact same thing? And where are they now? Do you want that Formula One? I don't think you do.
Smaller races, fewer spectators.
Right. Isn't that
now they're capping some of the circuits at 50,000 spectators instead of 150.
Right. I mean, isn't that what makes, the human mind a great thing is that you can tell me about something. You can say, hey, Grace, don't touch that. It's hot. And I can go, oh, I trust Todd. Todd's my friend. I'm not going to touch that. It's hot because I trust Todd. So you've watched NASCAR. Don't do it, right? Like you don't have to go through it in order to learn it. You don't have to go to Germany to know it exists, right? I think that we've seen this happen, but it's just never going to be that way because it's not spec. I also wish we brought back tire competition. I think that would get rid of a lot of this. I think Pirelli, and it's not Pirelli's fault, and that's the thing too.
Pirelli makes a great tire, but
they're doing their job, but anyway, I guess I agree with you. It's just,
I agree with you too.
He's courting the wrong people.
Yeah, I think. Well, yes. I think instead of spending all of their time and resources trying to figure out how they can make a racing series that has a history and legacy that Formula One has, instead of spending all their time and resources trying to figure out how they can make that more engaging and sticky to new sports fans, the more damage you're going to do to the sport in total. I still stand by that you can go too far in the technology side. Now, Steve
Yeah,
Matchett
you're right.
agrees with you. In one of my interviews, and Steve and I are buddies, and
Yeah,
we
right.
go quite a ways back now.
Thanks, Steve.
One of my interviews that I did with him, we were talking about this. It was probably back when Max Mosley was talking about cost caps.
Right.
And he had made the comment, you know what? This is Formula One. Formula One's expensive. If you don't have the money, don't get in it.
Right.
And I agree with him. Now, there is a thing, though, I think you can go too far.
Sure.
And I think that's when you started spending $40 million for an engine supply and those kind of things. And when in reality, you could take a Formula One car now, cut out a bunch of weight. All the teams could go out and buy Gibson V8 racing engines, put it in those cars, reduce some of the aero, and the racing would be super exciting, and people would love it.
Yeah.
Although it becomes more of a spec series, to your point. So you have to compromise. There's got to be a compromise. And if we were gonna lean a little one way or the other off of center, I would much rather be engineering on the technology side than just the tawdry exploitation. And my last note I will say is that exploitation is not a long-term view of sustaining anything, in my view,
Right.
or preserving it. You know, and I have a quick example that I'll share with you that nobody will give a damn about. But this goes back to 2020 when COVID came out. So my oldest daughter was the class of 2020, right, in high school. Well, COVID obliterated their last semester, right? So my dog's upset too. So,
Sure is.
So they didn't, there's no classes and everybody's trying to do Zoom. And unfortunately, what educators didn't have a tool, because Zoom is really a business tool, not a one-to-many teaching tool. And that created a lot of social pressure for the kids who could see everybody else's rooms and all that. It was a total mess, right? And so the school district said, you know what? We're not going to have a graduation, high school graduation, but we'll have what we're going to do is put together an ad hoc parade where all of the families can line up in their cars, have signs, and say, congratulations, Grace, and really celebrate the kids. And we'll drive through the town, and throngs of people all outside. Everybody had their mask on, but it was throngs of people along the parade route yelling, and people that my daughter didn't have a clue who they were. And they were, great job, Kay, great job, and we were going through, and it really was about the kids, and it made them special, and it made them feel special, right? Done with the right intent, in the right spirit, for all the right reasons. So they thought, this is such a good idea. Let's do it every year. I happen to see pictures from this year's. Do you know what they're doing?
There's like 2 people.
No. It's chock-a-block full of cars. All the kids are all like parsed out in their social groups. And they're all riding with each other. And all of the signs, they're like sponsors, and the signs all say Grace Harvard, Grace Belmont, Grace, Bryn Mawr, or whatever, right? And it's all now a pretentious, bragging, exploited situation, and it's vapid. It sucked the life out of what was intended to be a very genuine, pure celebration of the kids, right? And same thing for Formula One. When you think, oh my gosh, we have all these new viewers, we've got to exploit the hell out of it while we can, and you're going to go signs saying Lando Norris Yale, Lando Norris Belmont, you're going to have all of these people, right? And you're going to exploit the hell out of it and ruin the sport and what its purest intent is. Don't try to exploit it, and spend most of your time, instead of trying to exploit it, make it sticky for casual fans. Try to teach those fans how to get deeper into the sport.
And especially because you have technology, which I did not have when I got into this sport. It's so much easier. But I think, to your example, first of all, you have very high expectations for where my hypothetical high school student, Grace, went to college.
Right.
Second of all, I agree with you 100%. When you put out, I'm going to call it a bullshit race like Miami, and then you're mad that everybody's mad, well, try harder.
Yeah.
Give me I'll take 12 Brazils over one Miami.
Yeah.
Try harder. Again, I get it. Street races, I get why they're popular. I get why people do them. But if you're concerned about people watching this racing at home, don't make Miami your
Well,
thing.
here's a simple
better.
thing that we can do. Miami. Now, the crown jewel of Formula One is Monaco this weekend. Compare them. Just watch them and compare them.
I mean, Monaco, even though Monaco has not a lot of passion.
Show and
well,
they
I
have
was just
that,
gonna
but
say,
it's nothing like Miami.
No, but I mean, the thing is with Monaco is, the drivers speak to this. Not that I've ever been a driver, but you can't blink, right? There is never a moment that you're not turning, right? I think it's always interesting to watch, as much as I am down on Monaco, that if Monaco is anywhere but Monaco, we would have stopped having that race a long time ago. But you have to make it interesting. I mean, why do we all like Spa? Because it's interesting. It's an interesting race to watch with elevation change, right? And I don't know. I just think if your best effort, if you came to me and you said, Grace, my best effort is Miami, I'd go, you get a D, go home.
You get an F.
I mean, look at Austin. Austin is great. I love COTA. I've been to COTA. I enjoy watching it on television. It's a well done, purpose built track.
It is. Bobby does a great job.
That's your best effort. A+. I'm all for Austin, but come on, don't get mad at us because of your poor delivery.
I agree.
Do better. And don't get mad at the drivers because they didn't like your introductions. Your introductions were weird.
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you?
Yes. I do. They were weird. It was a very weird thing, all of it.
It was. Let's see. Let's do some Albin's cats, because that's always fun, and you've got a cat in the lap. Yes, we all know Alex Albin loves cats. So we're going to talk about Albin's cats. All right, Grace, give me some hot takes from Albin's cats.
I don't know, man. I feel like I need to take some deep breaths, do some yoga or something,
man.
right? Woo.
Ooh, I feel like Charlton Heston over here grabbing at my kerchief on my
Adam.
neck. It's Soylent Green as people. Crazy.
Yeah, I just think, I don't know. This has never stopped. This is like a never ending saga. Maybe this is true in any sport, but it is, it's certainly true at work.
Every race should be like a Super Bowl.
No. Just every race be Brazil. That would be fine. Or Spa, or, interesting.
Yes. Anyway.
But nobody expects every game to be great. Even football.
Every
game
Super Bowl's not great.
Most Super Bowls are not great.
Yeah.
That is
the last one, or the Chiefs one. That was great.
Well, I'd say maybe the last 5 have somehow managed to be interesting. But notoriously, the Super Bowl as a game was always terrible, I
agree.
So, calm
all
down
right,
there.
Albin's cats.
All right. All right. I'm going to do my best here. So not only did we have no Formula One, as we discussed, right? Yeah. There's no MotoGP.
I know.
There's no Gordon Ramsay cooking show.
I know.
What talk about? We already talked about
Way to go, Tucker. Okay.
Oh, you got kind of very good. And
although I gotta say, I thought the dude really cooked his butt off.
Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really came around to Chris. I really hated him in the beginning.
I didn't like him in the beginning either, but at the end,
man, I really
he took the most complicated things. He did the most challenging things when everybody else kind of played it safe.
No, he really made me rethink.
I really kind of thought he was the winner.
And next time I meet some guy and I'm like, oh, maybe I should give him 7 episodes before I really decide. Because at the end, he really warmed up.
Episodes before I call you an a-hole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In the beginning, he was totally terrible, but I really warmed up to him at the end when he really was getting into
All I'm going to say is Stefano's on episode 7, so he's got to turn it around for you.
That's right. I don't know. We've had 2 Miami GPs. Come on. I don't do better. Do better. Anyway. And sprint races.
Yeah.
Sorry. So there's no. What was I supposed to come up with Albon's cats? Right. So here's what I'm thinking. We had during the off season, we had hashtags for each of our shows.
We did.
So I think that this would be a good opportunity because I came up with 2 potential hashtags for this show. One is, so I heard you like street races, because now we're just going to have a string of 5 in a row street races because we haven't had a course for what, Bahrain. That was it, right? So
Yeah.
I heard you like street courses because now we're going to go to Monaco, right? We're just
Right.
street coursing it up here. Either that or God is a Checo fan. And for Samur, he's just trying as hard as he can, or she or they or whatever, is just trying to get Checo that championship as much as possible. It's going to be all street race season.
I love it. God is Checo fan.
God is a Checo fan. They're trying. They're
Hashtag
trying
God is
hard.
Checo fan. There you go.
That's it. They're trying.
All right. Cool.
All street races.
You want some of my no shit headlines?
I'd love it.
All right, here we go.
Because I haven't ranted enough. Why not?
I know. And I'm running close on time. I got to hustle through it. All right. Here we go. First headline. F1 Swift Imola action, a welcome contrast to recent past. You know, look.
Yes.
This is from the race. This is what I was talking about. This is a little heavy-handed there. There's no place to get Mitchell mommed on this. I'm not a fan of hit pieces for virtue. Yes, the right decision clearly was made. But
Right.
it's not an event to beat the crap out of F1 over. All right? So let's find other news, shall we?
Okay.
That's a little much. Let's see. Next headline. Gasly sheds penalty points, less chance of a ban. That's pretty much how that works. Yeah.
Right.
Got
That's
it. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
It's math. It's how it works.
What's the rest of the article say?
Well, he got a couple points back, so yeah.
I understand, but it's just like, well, I don't know where you go. That headline really.
Really, the
you
whole
go
story
from there?
is Pierre Gasly. Enough time has passed that he's got a couple points
Yeah.
back. End of story. Right, done.
Yeah, right.
Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. You'll like this one. Valtteri Bottas comes 114th as girlfriend wins women's event of Scottish race. Okay, so just to be clear, Valtteri didn't enter a women's race.
And that is definitely what that sounds
That's
like.
what that headline sounds like. I can assure you he didn't enter a women's race and come in 114th while his girlfriend won it. So, yeah, may want to
I don't
want to rewrite that headline there.
I don't understand this at all, but all
Throwing
right.
shade on Valtteri. Hey, did you like my tweet? I found this funny picture of him on the end of a dock wearing pastels.
Yes.
And I said, is it just me or is Valtteri's life turning into a Wes Anderson movie?
It
'Cause
totally is.
It's totally what it looked like. you
He's
know?
just here. He's just here for the joy.
I know. I'm waiting for Bill Murray to be like his crew chief or something.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Right? Or like him and Bill Murray start doing that sidecar motorcycle racing
Yeah.
thing together, right? Like,
Crazy.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just here for the vibes. He's just living his life.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Next headline. FIA President Mohammed bin Sulayem issues statement after 10 people dead in rally attack. Did you guys hear about this?
I didn't hear about this.
There was a rally in Mexico, and some people just started shooting the hell out of the paddock as people were getting in their cars, getting ready.
What?
10 people died.
That's horrendous. Oh my
And there
god.
was more
I
violence
didn't
in
hear about
Baja,
this.
California. I was like, what the heck?
Wow. No, I didn't
Would
hear about
everybody
that.
just stop getting shot?
Calm down.
Gosh, crazy.
Oh my, indeed.
In this, watch this space, folks. Grace and I talked about it. Felipe Massa continues bid to strip Lewis Hamilton of title due to F1 manipulation. He's still at it.
Okay, Felipe Massa. I feel like, you know how like on the Daily Show they'll go like, meet me at camera 2. Now I don't have a camera 2, so you're just gonna have to
Yeah.
meet me at this camera here. But Felipe, you and me right here. Let it go, man. We love you. You're Felipe Massa.
Yeah.
You know, you retired when you retired your last race at Brazil, even though you came back because you weren't actually retired, but you didn't know that. People loved you. They embraced you. We're like, oh, Felipe Massa, you're great. Don't do this. Let it go, man. You're not helping out anybody, and you're certainly not helping out your own image. We love you. The world loves Felipe Massa for sure. So just let it go. Let it go.
Just focus on being Felipe.
Yeah, that's right. Be Felipe, baby. We love you. It's
Yeah.
fine.
I
Don't
agree.
tarnish it.
And lastly, Lewis Hamilton set to be offered mammoth Ferrari contract.
Where did this rumor come from?
This
Why
is a
would he
bad
go?
idea. This is a very bad idea.
He's not going to Ferrari.
I don't know. A lot of folks think he is.
No, a lot of people that also think Taylor Swift and Fernando Alonso are dating think
Well,
this.
that's true, and that's silly. But it's a rumored 40 million pound deal to team him with Charles, leaving Carlos out of a ride, or Lewis go to Ferrari and Charles go to Merc deal. The team that would benefit out of this, I'm going to be controversial here. The team that would most benefit out of a switch or a deal that would see Lewis go to Ferrari is Mercedes. They get to walk away. They don't have to have the awkward separation with Lewis. They don't have to have any of that stuff that would benefit
No, but
Mercedes
they have to have
the most.
all awkward conversation with George Russell.
Well, they would there. Like if they got Charles and Charles came back over to Mercedes with George, that would be a little testy.
I'm pretty sure George, the second that dropped, George would make a beeline to Toto Wolff's office.
Yeah.
You think how fast that somebody has to call Gene Haas? You're gonna see somebody calling Gene Haas. I think George would go through the roof if that happened.
Yeah.
You've been promising him, Toto Wolff, since the day he set foot at Williams that you will be number one at this team, and you have just pulled back off of that. I would be beyond angry if I was George Russell. So you're right.
Meanwhile, Ferrari's over here going,
Get in there, Lewis.
Yeah. So maybe you're okay because, you don't have to have the conversation with Lewis, but I don't want to talk to George about this. That is a conversation I wouldn't want to have.
As a Ferrari fan, everybody knows I'm a Ferrari fan. As a Ferrari fan, I think this is a very bad deal. Very bad idea.
I mean, I don't think anybody thinks this is a good idea. This is just like rabble-rousing or stirring the pot.
I've been a little pointed, and Paul and I both have been a little pointed with our comments about Charles and even Carlos to some level. So I'll go to the wall with Ferrari thinking, a lot of unforced errors from Charles. Shouldn't be getting those at this point in his career.
Right.
Carlos is on boil, off boil, on boil. I get it. But I'm telling you, Ferrari with Lewis isn't going to bring you much more than what you're getting from Charles. It's a super expensive proposition for you. And I think you would be money ahead trying to go after Lando, George, Piastri, somebody that isn't as expensive, has more long-term, prospect and could have an impact there than Lewis. So I don't know.
If this was in Formula One manager, I would never take this deal.
No, I wouldn't either.
This is a terrible idea.
If I was Ferrari, I wouldn't take him. If I was Merc, I wouldn't re-sign him. That's just I've said that for 2 years now, but.
Yeah, I think that Mercedes will re-sign him. They will re-sign him as long as he wants to be re-signed.
Well, Toto's always alluded to that, that he's all there. But I gotta imagine if they don't come together, it's because Lewis wants a ton of money.
Yeah, well, and I also think too that Ferrari. I agree 100% that Charles is putting out a lot of unforced errors, but you're Ferrari. You also put out a lot of unforced errors, sir. So if you put in Lewis Hamilton, I mean, sometimes the problem is you, right? And if every person you date seems to all be terrible for the same reason, maybe you're the problem.
Maybe Lewis could go to Aston Martin with Fernando, or he could go back home to McLaren.
Ah, yes. Come back home.
Right. He could come back home.
Bring all your trophies with you so that I can, stand next to them.
You got
not
Piastri,
just the one.
Got Piastri and Lewis at McLaren. You could Lando go to Merc. I'm just saying. Anyway, all right.
I think so.
Let's do some mailbag.
You got mail.
This is from Graham Fuller. Hi, Todd, Grace, and Paul. Question regarding Ferrari, excluding Lewis, Max, and Alonso. Is there anyone else from the current grid or F1 super license holding that Ferrari should consider? Would this help if it were possible to replace drivers, not casting any shadows on the current drivers? Alternatively, is an Aston Martin style build and poaching required? Thanks heaps. Keep up the good work. And I don't care if you talk for 2 or 29 minutes before getting to the show. Thanks, Graham.
Excellent. You're our new favorite mailbag.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's a great question, and we're kind of spitballing it as we go.
No, I think.
Who would you pick?
Oh, I was going to answer his Aston Martin,
Yes.
style build and Yes, I think is the
Yes.
answer.
Yeah, I agree.
And that was the easier of the two questions to answer.
It was. It was.
That's absolutely. I think that is the only way you can be successful in this sport is just to buy the whole shebang,
Yep.
rebuild the whole shebang, and make it your shebang. That's the
Yeah.
only way you can be successful in Formula One.
And then go shebang.
Yeah, then we just got to
Yeah.
find 9 other Larrys in order to make the sport successful,
right.
and none of them can be an Andretti. Go.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so first
So,
question.
on
Go
the
ahead.
Ferrari side, yeah, this is, if we exclude Lewis, Max, and Alonso, on the Ferrari side, it becomes more difficult. You got Charles there, you got Carlos there. Both of them seem comfortable and at home at the team. I am concerned about the unforced errors with Charles, and the up and down nature of Carlos. But if you're going to replace him, I think Ferrari has to be realistic. I think Lando Norris is worth looking at. George Russell's worth looking at. Piastri is worth looking at. Don't know about Gasly, Ocon. No on Stroll.
Oh my God, Essie Bessie at Ferrari. Oh, what a
Yeah.
nightmare.
No, I think
Yeah.
those are your main culprits: Russell, Norris, Piastri. Yeah, I kind of think that's kind of who you would be looking at as a possible.
What about like an Alex Albon, an Alexander Albon?
I thought about Alex, but I think Alex, believe it or not, I think Alex. I think the teams that have tremendous pressure kind of weigh on him. I think where he flourishes as like a Williams, I think he would be good at Alfa Romeo or Audi. I think he would be good at AlphaTauri again. Or if Checo left, I think he would be good at Red Bull as Max's teammate again. Without all the pressure that you got to beat Max, I think he would be better there.
I think that's fair. I like him at Audi. I think that would be great. I think
Yeah,
that's
I
a
do
good
too.
idea.
Yeah, I think Alex at Audi would be a good move.
What about Checo at Ferrari?
I think Checo would be good at Ferrari.
I think that is. I was just like, oh, Checo is not
Yeah.
on your list.
Yeah.
Let's put Checo at Ferrari.
He would be good.
I would love.
Consistent.
Oh my gosh, that would be great because we know so much about Checo. Oh, that's it. I want to see that just because then Ferrari, we would know the truth about you, Ferrari, that we've suspected all along.
Yes.
It's shambolic. I think we have to get Checo at Ferrari now. This is my
Yeah.
new mission.
But Carlos would be like,
No, it cannot be, Ricky.
yeah, he would.
It cannot be. But I just think that's who I would put there. I also don't know enough about who is like in the junior series and that kind of I never know.
Yeah.
So
But those are my immediate targets.
Okay.
All right. Well, that does it for this podcast. That's what we think. You tell us what you think. Also, what's your favorite corner at Monaco? Let me know. Mine is Portier. Always has been since I was a little kid before they had the wall
Portier.
where you can't see the ocean. But I
Yeah.
always loved it in the late 60s, early 70s when they'd come down to Portier. And as soon as they come around that corner, there's the whole harbor and they go into that. I don't know. Just something about Portier. I always like. It's not maybe the most difficult corner, but it's just one of my favorites. I don't know. Let
I
me know
just
what
like
you
I just like saying Puhan.
Puhan Spa. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
I know that's the wrong track. That's
Yeah.
I mean, how many corners?
You probably like
Monaco,
Roscoe because that's
yeah.
where Michael parked
Oh,
it
yeah.
at one time.
Rascas. Yes, I know where that
Anthony
one
Nogue.
is.
Yeah.
What else? I don't know. There's. I mean, most of
Mirabeau.
the tracks
That's
don't
where
have.
Nico parked at Mirabeau.
Yeah, most of the tracks don't have named corners anymore.
I
Really.
know. It's a shame.
I don't know.
It should.
Puhan. I'm just sticking with that, even though you're right. That's at Spa, not at Monaco, because it's a fun word to say.
It is a fun word to say.
I
And
don't know, the swimming
Stavolo.
pool. And Stavolo. The swimming pool. That's not. Isn't that now like the Lowe's corner or
The
something like?
Piscine.
Yeah. See, I don't
Piscine.
know.
Yeah, there's a casino, Lowe's, and it was station. It's changed many times.
I don't know.
But anyway, all right. Well, that does it for this podcast, but you can share your opinions. Go to theparcferme.com. Do it with decorum and civility as always. Oh, and by the way, speaking of merch, I finally got around
I am so excited.
updating our t-shirts to our very simple, elegant merch logo. So now, if you go to our website, scroll down a little bit, you'll see a t-shirt. It's just got the podcast logo on the front in all of its long, long glory for all these years. And on the back, it says very simply in quotes, occasionally insightful.
Well, I ordered one, so
Oh,
as soon as
awesome.
as soon as it arrives, I will debut it.
Yes,
And what
perfect.
I was gonna say model it, but I don't know that what I do here is considered modeling.
Debut
but
it is good for
there
you.
you go. You'll get to see the
you
new
debut
merch.
things. That's what
Yeah.
you do.
There you go.
You're,
I was a content.
you're Grace the Revelator.
There you. That's right. Plus, it has my tagline on it, so
It
I
does.
can't-
Occasionally
can't pass it up.
insightful. Yeah. So it's good. And for those that are wondering, occasionally insightful goes all the way back to one of the very first reviews of our podcast on Apple iTunes. And it was like, I may have been the first review we ever
I think
got.
so. Right.
And it said, yeah, it's a pretty good podcast. It's kind of fun and occasionally insightful.
Always entertaining, occasionally
Always
insightful.
entertaining, occasionally insightful. So
Because
Grace grabbed on it and said, you know what? We're going to own that. We are occasionally insightful.
much like when I sung the story at the top of the show, that people were like, cats only like you because you can feed them. I'm like, well, that's the only reason I like people. It was the same thing.
Yeah.
Always entertaining, occasionally insightful. Oh, that's me in a tagline. That sounds about right.
That's
People invite me to meetings only because I'm occasionally insightful, but mostly for my entertainment.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, and if you like the podcast, you can give us a good ratings at your favorite podcast player or Apple Music. A huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. As always, we could not and would not do this podcast without you. You can support us very easily. Just go to theparcfermé.com and you can see on the right-hand side or at the bottom left, just click on that and it'll go to our Patreon page. You can support us as little as $1 a month. And a huge thank you to Grace, as always, for coming on and standing in for Paul on a canceled, truncated week. And that's been great on short notice. But until next week, when I go try to find, and I believe, folks, here in the States, it is Memorial Day on Monday. So we won't record on Monday night. We'll be recording on Sunday night, a day earlier, with the International. You know who he is.
Hello, everybody. This is Paul Charles, the
We're
International.
going to be talking to Paul Charles, the International, reviewing Monaco. Paul and I love Monaco, so it should be a lot of fun. So until that time, when we come back to do it all over again, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camber, saying so long, Grace.
See you in 2 weeks.
Oh, ho, ho.